Got a real war out there with big blue liberal cities and ICE. ICE officers being doxed. ICE officers doxed by Antifa in Portland, Department of Homeland Security says. And they are basically outright putting names and addresses on their websites just right out in the open. What is local law enforcement doing? Nothing, as per usual in the big blue liberal cities. Let's get into it. Here we go. So here's literally what that looks like. No peace for ICE agents. We put together some posters for people to share, paste, and distribute widely. More to come. It's been out there since the 13th of June. And underneath this, literally, I scroll up a bunch, and I'm not going to do it because I don't want the names and faces and addresses of these ICE agents in Portland to pop up. But they are literally releasing names, faces, address, doxing on ICE agents working in Portland. That should be an immediate have the police show up your front door. Immediate. But in Portland, we're not doing that. Why? Because of political leadership, city council, the mayor, they just want to appease their virtue signaling citizenship that got them into office, which means, we don't like ICE. They're deporting our voter base. They are deporting our ability to have more seats in the House based on population. And that's why they're all just so worked up over having criminal illegals tossed from the country. It's a wild phenomena, right? I mean, Los Angeles is the poster child for that. They're all just so worked up. They're so worked up about ICE doing their job because there's a little something called border security. And now that we're doing it, everybody's worked up. What are we going to do? I think it's great. I think it's in response to the last 4 years of not inaction, but negative action by the Biden administration. Just basically letting our border be overrun. And then saying, well, we would do something about it, but we can't get the legislation through because of those damn Republicans. And then Trump takes office and, with just executive orders alone, he's able to, reduce illegal border crossings by 95%. Weird. It's got to be coincidence, doesn't it? No. 2 Oregon-based organizations that the Department of Homeland Security says are reportedly affiliated with so-called Antifa being targeted for making private information about immigration and customs enforcement officers public. News Nation has learned. The agency said that the 2 Portland groups identified as Rose City Counter Info, it's the website we just looked at, and the Christian Daily, publishing the names, photos, and addresses of ICE officers on their website and social media platforms. This is what they do. This is what they do. They are interfering with law enforcement, and as such, I think they should all be arrested and a quick trip to jail and just, pin charges on those that we can see. Pin charges on those that, deserve them. But we're not doing that because this is Portland. This is Portland. And what I mean by that is check out this news story. Yeah. Portland clears protest camp outside ICE days after noise ordinance lawsuit filed. Remember our young lady with the cane that went down and just lit into Antifa? She just screamed at them. I'm not going to play that clip again, although I'd like to. I think I've already played it in like 6 different podcast episodes. That was a great clip, wasn't it? It's like that lady is living through, she's handicapped, doesn't have a lot of options. She's living in an apartment nearby, and Antifa is just blaring noises and then, having all these conflicts with ICE, who's just trying to deport criminals from the community. And Antifa, they don't like that. They do not like that. So this woman that's handicapped and that's in the community, in the neighborhood, goes out in the middle of the night, just starts screaming at Antifa. She files a lawsuit. The minute the lawsuit gets filed, KATU, I think it was, had a news crew out there, local Portland station, had a news crew out there. Literally, a couple of hours later, Portland clears protest camp outside ICE days after noise ordinance lawsuit filed. So when I say political will, when something pops up and it's going to be a bad look for politicians in Portland, that's when they do something. They can prohibit all of this. They could prohibit ICE being doxed by these losers from Antifa, but they choose not to. They choose to let Antifa continue their shenanigans because that's more politically, ideologically where they're driven, is Antifa. Yeah. Then providing a safe community for their citizenry because their citizenry believes in Antifa. Otherwise, police department just clear out this protest on day one. We'd never hear anything about it. Be over, game over. But the protests at the ICE building went on for way over a month until that brave young lady with the cane filed a lawsuit against the city. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing stuff that the leadership in Portland is so weak, is so fickle, is so, let the criminals just have their way with us. They're so down that road that it takes a lawsuit for them to do something as basic as make sure that law enforcement is actually enforced, meaning criminals are tossed from our communities. No, they don't like that. They want to dox them instead. The agency said that two Portland groups, we read that. The Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, said Friday that these efforts called doxing put law enforcement officers in grave danger. If you haven't heard of doxing, it's just basically going online, sharing somebody's identity and where you can get a hold of them, meaning their home, and potentially give other international crime organizations such as Tren de Aragua and MS-13 access to federal immigration officers and their families. They can go to their house. These people can't just be moving around like nomads, right? They're raising families too. By these groups, Antifa in particular, Rose City Antifa, one of the biggest Antifa groups out there. Should local police be hammering on them? Absolutely. Will they? No, they won't, because public policy in Portland is such that we won't interfere, we won't get involved, and we're certainly not going to help ICE because apparently they're doing something bad by deporting criminal illegals from Portland. Again, make that make sense. Noem's warning comes as the agency has said that attacks on federal immigration officers and agents have increased significantly. In recent months, News Nation confirmed the Department of Homeland Security is reporting a nearly 700% increase in attacks on ICE officers. It's just skyrocketed because it's the conflict. It's the conflict that we're having right now. ICE versus a bunch of losers. ICE versus a bunch of loser leadership. Comrade Karen Bass, Los Angeles, prime example. She's supposed to be at a news conference, talking about the results of 6 months after the wildfires. She's mayor of the city. And when those wildfires started, she was in Ghana. Yeah, she was in Ghana country, just way far away. But so she skipped the 6-month anniversary, conference that they were going to have talking about what they've accomplished since then. And instead, she went down to go harp on ICE in a MacArthur Park raid that ICE was doing. She went down there, stop, you guys have to stop this now. This is terrible. And you're like, what are you doing? That's law enforcement. Why are you impeding law enforcement from doing their job? Well, because they love the criminal illegals. And politically, this is a hot potato that's going on, right? Fox News reported that between January and June 2024, 10 assaults and attacks took place on ICE officers. That number has increased to 69 during the same time from this year. Hence, the 700% increase. You got a situation where big blue cities are allowing ICE agents to be doxed. They're allowing it. Because otherwise they'd go after these criminals, Antifa, and arrest them. But they don't do that until somebody sues, and they're forced to do it because this whole thing promotes their ideology, which is no borders, no police, no judicial system. Get rid of all the judges. Get rid of jails. Get rid of everything to do with this whole thing. That should work out fine, right? Just like defund the police worked out so splendidly. But they don't want to look at that. They just want what they want. The agency has not specified what it considers an assault on federal officers and agents, but in a statement issued on Friday, Noem said that DHS will go after groups that are found to share sensitive information about ICE officers. Good. They should. Because you're basically jamming up law enforcement from doing their job. And what nut job thinks that having more criminals in the midst of your population is a good idea? It's a rhetorical question, right? We will prosecute those who dox ICE agents to the full extent of the law. These criminals are taking the side of vicious cartels and the human traffickers. We won't allow it in America. And it shouldn't be allowed. It just shouldn't be allowed. You interfere down in Portland, you interfere with ICE, immediately arrested. Boom. Off to jail you go. And then some libtard judge will let you go. You know what I mean? Nobody will prosecute. They're protesting, mostly peaceful? Okay. Noem's warning came after DHS officials reported that 2 federal immigration were injured over the 4th of July weekend in Texas. That was horrible. ICE Rose City Counter Info characterizes itself, that's the website we looked at, as a counter info project and a platform for information to be highlighted to anarchists and radicals in Portland and the greater Portland area. Well, Portland's become basically commie central #1, right? It just has. They love Antifa. Oh no, don't arrest Antifa. Oh hell no. Gotta keep Portland weird. Review of the website by News Nation showed that the group had published photos and believed mailing addresses of ICE officers on a page. That's what we looked at. We just didn't scroll down. No borders, no nations, and no deportations. Yeah, catchy, right? No borders, no nations, no deportations. Gotta work on that one. Yeah, maybe a little no borders, no nations, no deportations. Right? Sure, that just sounded horrible. But that's what we're doing. The Christian Daily website is inactive, but the group's Instagram account includes a how-to page on publicly identifying ICE officers that included requests for publishing the LinkedIn profiles and current employment status of ICE officers. You do that, that should be an immediate go to federal jail, not local, federal jail. Because you violated federal officers doing their job. Federal. Get them in front of federal judge. Even that might not work, right? It's hard to say. We will publish all confirmed agents, so that's comforting. And identifying the 2 Portland groups, DHS officials published photos of signs posted around Portland. They include photos of known ICE officers. You know what? Antifa's been doing this forever. They do it with local police officers. They do it with whomever because they're basically covered. The mayor of Portland has their back. And you know what they come out and they say? Well, our local Portland police officers, they're not going to get involved with the whole ICE thing because they're not going to get involved and they're not going to get involved. We allow freedom of speech, which also happens to, override a breach of the peace 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. That's off the table. Nobody cares about that because, Antifa is bashing on the ICE building in Portland. And that's what the lawsuit was. Hey, what about the 10 p.m. noise ordinance? Oh, well, it's Portland, so we like to keep it weird. And we're allowing Antifa to just basically have their way with wherever they want to, and we're not going to do anything until the pressure comes on from a lawsuit from a private resident who can't sleep, who is being annoyed by the amount of toxicity coming into her apartment unit because it doesn't have air conditioning. And Portland is hot in the summer. She's got to have her window open. She's getting all the toxic tear gas and a bunch of, numbnuts out there just running around with their fake swords and, their fake, just their whole thing is just complete children playing as adults. That's what it is, right? They're pretending at life. The efforts to identify ICE officers come as officials said that the ICE facility in Portland has been under siege by protesters every single night. Just like federal buildings in downtown Portland, kind of a little bit to the north and west, were during the Summer of Love. Same damn thing. Oh, we're going after the federal building. We're going to try and burn it down. I watched them literally try and burn that building down. And what did Portland Police Bureau do? Not much, because leadership said, oh, don't touch him. Don't touch him. Freedom of speech. Since when is burning down a federal building covered by freedom of speech? Since when is violating a noise ordinance in the middle of the night freedom of speech? It's not. It's all politics, right? Portland Homeland Security said Friday that ICE officials have been attacked, federal building has been, property has been destroyed, death threats have been posted at the facility. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's happening. Portland police did not immediately return a request for comment from News Nation about the two local organizations have been identified by DHS officials, and they're not going to. You know why? Because they are too busy covering the asses of politicians who dictate, oh no, because they're Democrats, because they're liberals. They're basically saying, we are not cooperating with ICE or any federal authority whatsoever, because that's the virtue signaling that needs to take place. And politics. It's all politics. It's all politics. Because in what world does a law enforcement official say, yeah, you know, that criminal illegal, that criminal, we should keep him here. And we should not prosecute him. We should just not prosecute him. Just keep them in the United States, even though they're supposed to be deported. What cop says that? What cop says that? I don't think any of them do. Right? I mean, there's probably a certain percentage. Let's just go with the flow and we'll just let this happen. No. You know, law enforcement is about upholding the law, right? I mean, in theory, that's what it is, and that's the oath that you take, right? So anything else? And I'm not naive enough to know that there aren't cops out there that, you know, support what's going on here in Portland, support what's going on in LA. Percentage-wise, there's a bunch. There's a handful. I don't know. But the vast majority, I believe, actually believe in law enforcement because that's what they signed up for. And yet you've got this going on because of politics. Literally because of politics. Because when does a mayor, like in Los Angeles, start spending a couple $100 on gift cards to the families of those criminal illegals that have already been deported? They're doing that right now. They're doing that right now in Los Angeles. Going to hand out some preloaded debit cards, just like in New York City. When the criminal illegals arrived, get a preloaded debit card, and then the world's your oyster. They're doing that for families of those who have been deported in Portland, Oregon. I mean, in Los Angeles. Comrade Bass is doing that. That makes 0 sense, does it? 0 sense. All right. That's it for me on this one. Love to have you subscribe. Do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.